In this video, we're going to be talking about a recent article that just came out in the Harvard Business Review about social media influencers, and the results are going to blow your mind. Clark, go ahead. So first, that was a good one, right?
Yeah, that's a good one.
So first of all, Clark, obviously being an MBA student, has subscribed to the Harvard Business Review.
Yeah, I nerd out and get the Harvard Business Review every 2 months.
Which, to be honest with you, I should start reading because there's actually some really interesting stuff that comes out of this.
I can get you on like the online thing, and then all you can do is that, like, rather than having to flip through a magazine, you can see like here's the top stories, articles, or whatever online. If you were to land on any other website, and you just click on whatever you find interesting and flip them through.
Very interesting. So
Steve brought in his old ones there, but I have all the other ones in the last, it's called, year or so at home.
let's go through with. So what's the title of the article? Let me see. Give me the book here real quick.
It starts on the page before too.
What's the actual title?
Wait.
Right here, no? Right there. So here's the article right here. Its title is "When It Comes to Influencers, Smaller Can Be Better. Companies that rely on celebrities with lots of followers are missing out." Now, let's turn the page here. So I'm gonna read the highlighted parts that, right? They discovered that nano-influencers, those with fewer than 10,000 followers, yield a remarkable average return, more than $1,000 on a $50 investment. The typical worth of free products they receive. Oh, so it's based on actual just free products, not a cash compensation.
It's a combination of both, but they're finding that the vast majority of the time the nano-influencers only require.
Interesting, which we've also seen. Conversely, macro-influencers, those with more than 100,000 followers, command a hefty price tag of well over $1,000 on average, but deliver a return of only 6,000.
So that's basically a 20x ROI versus a 6x ROI.
Another title right here is "Influencers Must Genuinely and Demonstrably Care About What We Do." So this is, let me give it a little bit more context. This part is, no, not the chart yet. So this is actually based off of,
Show me real quick just so I can trigger my memory. That, I believe, just kind of talks about what you're looking for.
for sure. And it probably is, looks like it's giving context behind other businesses that are providing. So in context, this is, we're talking about what companies should require, as well as what this particular company requires. So they're quoting him. "We avoid influencers who one day promote a pen and the next day promote a water bottle." Interesting. We want influencers who were familiar with our products and industry. That's really interesting. Last year, our influencer marketing budget was only 8% of our total marketing budget. This year, we bumped it up to 15. Authenticity and genuine connection with followers are paramount to us. It's not enough that we wear our product. It's not enough that they wear our product in a photo on Instagram. Influencers must genuinely and demonstrably care about what we do. Very interesting. No chart yet. This is the more context, this page here. How Paul Valentin, this is a headline, how Paul Valentin managed the increased number of influencer campaigns. We use a platform called Brand Ambassador. Whatever, we use a different one, but for example, they use a platform to manage it.
What's interesting about that one though is it's a little bit,
Brand Ambassador?
it's a little bit more automated. It's like Tinder for dating app for influencers, where essentially they will log on and you can basically, from the influencer perspective, they can see all of the brands that have offerings and they can swipe through for whatever they find interesting.
Okay.
Brands can do the same thing, swiping through potential influencers.
So it's almost like what we have.
Correct. I feel like you almost could use the two in tandem.
Yeah.
One that actually manages the influencer profile and program, whereas another one is used to like find influencers.
I see. Got it. We're also considering implementing an automated system on our website where an influencer comes to us and we give them a budget to purchase our products. Then they post about it on social media with a tracking link. We analyze their results and then we decide whether to give them a second budget. Really interesting. I guess the one issue that I see with this is you're somewhat, I guess, disconnected. So I don't know if you know this or not, but Dave sent me the analytical data for how many teams, influencers we have. Do you know how many influencers we have?
No, how many?
We have over 1,000 teams. No, sorry. We have teams, camps, and events total. We have 1,121 currently signed up as of this morning.
Wow.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
We've paid out, geez, I don't even, like I just wrote it on Instagram or on LinkedIn here. Give me a sec. We've actually paid out a total of let me see here. Of all of those, over 245,000. And then this is crazy, 1,376 brand ambassadors.
Are you serious?
Yeah, dude.
Individuals. This is separate from the teams.
Separate from the teams.
We have over 1,000?
Over 1,300. And we've paid them out 130,000. So for together number of teams, camps, events, and brand ambassadors, 2,503, which is so crazy.
I had no idea we actually were even at that number. That escalated fast.
100%. And these are people that have come to us. We don't go to them. That's the best kind. They're actually looking to us. You know, people I approve, where they just DM BioSteel, and I'm in the DMs or whatever, and they're like, hey, I love your product. I'd love to a partnership with you guys.
Yeah.
Perfect. Go to the link in the bio above, sign up for a partnership agreement or whatever. I feel like
I had no idea.
I feel like that's so much stronger than the brand going out looking for people.
Yeah.
Right? So, and these are people.
We do a little bit of outreach for niche accounts.
Sure.
Vast majority is.
We probably get 10 people a day asking to partner with us. So next, are you talking about the chart here? This chart?
See it?
That chart. So go through it. Let me see the chart actually first.
So this is just basically breaking down now a comparison between the different platforms. Okay. So TikTok, YouTube, Twitch, and Instagram, of which are the ones that have the highest concentration of these influencers. So it just was interesting that TikTok has the most macro influencers. It's understandable if TikTok's platform allows for that you to really pop off out of nowhere. Yeah. So it has the most number. It has 3.1% of all influencers have over 500,000 followers, and it's a much smaller fraction. It's 0.3% for Instagram. For macro above 500,000. Got it. Okay. But when it comes to the micro influencers, which is your range of 1,000 to 10,000 followers, TikTok is at 42%, whereas Instagram's at 77%.
So there's much more people. There's a lot
more people in the valuable range on Instagram than on TikTok.
Interesting.
Now, whether or not that actually correlates to ROI is unknown.
And then what you put here is what most likely to influence purchase decisions.
Because it's 77% of all influencers on Instagram have that range.
So you went through the article. You fully read the article. I clearly didn't.
There's other pieces. I highlighted the main ones that I wanted to you to see.
So talk to me about what you found in the article that basically explains to people what the most valuable thing to do in today's society if you want to advertise a product.
So I think, and also I'll do some extrapolations too, some other analysis on tying together what the article says and things that you and I have learned separately or conversations we've had or whatever it is. So I'd say first and foremost is I think that there's a different approach when you're looking at awareness for a brand versus conversion and purchases.
What was the narrative here?
So this exclusively measured purchases. That's one thing that I found very interesting. Because when it comes to, think about when we met with the NHL, right? Yeah. When we met with the NHL, they were talking all about impressions and views and how many times that the liquid to lips, how many times the players are being seen drinking, right?
It's purely an awareness play.
Correct. Now they had ways of trying to estimate purchases, but this study that was done looked at over 100,000 influencers that had brand deals, and it looked at over 2 million purchases, like individual transactions, and what actually led to those purchases and what the conversion rates are, etc. Yeah. And so when you're looking at awareness, if you are an early company, if you're like Greens when it was first up and coming, like at Joe Rogan, right? That really did Joe Rogan's podcast have a really high conversion rate in terms of purchases? Probably not, but because he just has so many views, that's more of an awareness play. I think that plays a role in your overall marketing because you do still want to have awareness for potential new customers. But the problem is that if you only focus on that, then you're losing out on all of the opportunity to actually convert purchasers. Yeah. We already know that BioSteel spent, $400 million on brand awareness historically. So now our new focus is how do we actually convert the people that are aware of the brand into purchases. And what was interesting about the study is it did not look at views, clicks, impressions, like video views, none of that. It only looked at how many people actually went through to make a purchase in a variety of different industries, right? And so looking at the fact that the influencers between 1,000 and 10,000 followers had a 20x high, and they usually only look for product in kind, like free product, is very, very interesting, right? So that's where it's like, do you still want to have a portion of your marketing budget towards the awareness to maybe like some upper level athletes, a couple of celebrity endorsements? Sure. But you don't want that to be like the majority, because the data shows it has 1/3 of the return compared to the same amount of dollars. If you're signing up a pro level athlete for 200 grand on, let's say 100 grand for easy numbers, 100 grand on a pro level athlete, it's likely that that will directly convert into 600,000 in revenue, whereas 100 grand spent on nano-influencers would generate $2 million in revenue.
That is so interesting.
Right.
What the most interesting thing about this is, we have loose research that, when we video previously that Connor pulled, and I think you maybe helped him pull that. I don't know if you did or not, but Connor pulled some data to support our, inclination, influencers and celebrity endorsements and pro athlete endorsements, at the best ratio. And it's starting to become a little bit of an older stuff marketing. Yeah. So we knew that this article just completely solidified our position. Yeah. And
it's also very interesting that this wasn't done by a marketing agency.
Yeah.
This was by a group of PhDs at a fucking business school.
Interesting. Right? Yeah. There's
like,
no bias.
Exactly. Now, was the article sponsored by a brand ambassador? Possibly. Right. But at the end of the day, the research and them promoting brand ambassador as like that application they mentioned.
It's brand ambassador that sponsored it?
Possibly.
Okay.
It doesn't say it explicitly, but they mentioned the application, and I would imagine that in order to get mentioned in this article, that's probably some sort of deal they did on the side.
Yeah.
But
to be supported.
Right, exactly. So the main part of the first half of the article is all about the research study that was done. Yeah. Right? I thought really interesting. And then I'd say like the second kind of major piece of this is looking at, so regardless if it's a nano-influencer or a macro-influencer, it's the type of content they're putting out and like how many deals they have. It mentions in one place in the article that there's a direct negative correlation between the number of brand deals somebody does, regardless of the size of their platform,
super interesting,
versus the or against the purchases that are actually coming in. Because that's where.
So let's give an example. So essentially the example is, and
the pen and
it provides some yeah. So what basically saying is if you have an influencer and they have like 5 different that they're supporting or promoting or whatever, that plays negatively into their ability to convert for your product. So that's something that you should also look into. How many brand deals that particular influencer has. The less, the better. And if you're the only one, the ultimate, essentially.
Yeah. Which is interesting at looking at some of these previous brand or ambassador and pro athletes at BioSteel that previously
multiple,
that now they have multiple deals, they've moved to competitor brands.
Yeah.
That already is so diluted in terms of the value. Yeah. Will there be some value? Absolutely. But in terms of just like looking at the actual data, those are much less likely to have a, let's say, 6 times multiplier the next time around. Yeah. Because you're just diluting it. Yeah. Right. And it's not only necessarily in the same industry, it's just across even if it's 5 separate products in 5 separate industries, it's still going to have a negative correlation, because the strongest that lead to actual purchases are the ones that have the smallest amount of brand deals and recommendations. So that's second. And third, which is related to it, is that the type of content when they're talking about the product has to feel very authentic and organic, where there's a genuine love for the product, and you feel like when you're watching it, you're like, okay, this person uses this thing, and it's not just a paycheck. Yeah,
and this is why I was to the fact that the majority of the people that come through our, come through our network are genuine users of BioSteel. That's the important thing. I ask everyone, do you use the product? If they lead with the fact that, hey, I love BioSteel, I in my daily life, I don't need to ask, obviously. Did you touch on the fact that the article also mentions that if you flip-flop between brands, you completely lose credibility, and that's also something that you should look for in an ambassador?
Yeah.
Did you mean to?
Not the fact of flip-flopping, but just the number of brand deals in total.
Yeah.
That's a negative.
But that did mention that if you if you have a brand ambassador that flip-flops between brands, that's also an issue. So something to also continue to keep an eye out for. Very interesting.
So now how we apply this moving forward is we add these ideas, right? We presented them to some retailers. We presented them when we were trying to get to new retail locations. But having a study that was done looking at this, supporting it, makes me feel more confident with doubling down on this strategy, because I now know, okay, it's a strategy looking at, once again, over 100,000 influencers, over 2 million transactions that were conducted through this whole thing. Really helps kind of like reinforce. Also, them mentioning what percentage of their marketing budget they assigned to. Now, this is just one case study.
Yeah.
Right. Not an across all of them. It's just the one case, the one business as an example.
Now,
I did find it very interesting though.
Now, did they give a case study of that one business with respect to a percentage of their sales, or did
marketing?
Yeah, or did about?
No, but I do know that the average fast-growing e-commerce brand has a marketing budget of 25% of revenues.
Yeah.
So we're very heavily on average for this industry is.
For BioSteel or Canadian Protein?
I guess technically both.
Like really both, right?
Yeah.
Anything else?
Now, the two though is that for Canadian Protein, we don't have as much wiggle room because we're not so good example of like how they split their budget comes from revenues overall to marketing spend. And so for every, let's say like $100 price or AG1 or Athletics Greens collects, from some of the things that I've seen online. Now, this is not validated, it's not a public company with this information. It's just some things that I've seen through podcasts and through other conversations, is that the ingredients themselves are only 10% of the overall retail price, right? So the research was done by someone else who runs a supplement company. They looked at the exact amounts and they said, well, the formula is not available, but I'd estimate the ingredients to be only about $10. So now, I'm not saying this product is a ripoff. I'm just saying that it's the ratio in which the raw materials compared to the final retail prices. For Canadian Protein, those ratios are like 50%, not 10%. So it gives us much less wiggle room for all the other expenses.
You're getting a ton of value with Canadian Protein.
Exactly. So whereas with AG1, they might be spending 50% on marketing, maybe even more. That's also, they're very well positioned in the market. They have understood that if they spend more dollars, they're getting a certain ROI in marketing. I think they've done their marketing very, very well for a lot of years.
For sure.
And so they've dumped more marketing dollars into it. So for us, I do like that we could be spending more. I want to make sure that we have a very, very solid foundation prior to pumping all these extra dollars in. We're getting there for sure. But this research definitely helps. Yeah,
very interesting. So we're going to be doubling down on our nano-influencer and ambassador acquisition rate, I feel. We're going to focus on...
And then also, so we have the program set up very well, where I feel like we actually use some attention, is then the management of existing ambassadors to try to... The 1,300 we already have, 6 months down the road, so they don't just get bored and complacent, that we have some sort of thing to keep it very engaging so that they keep on content for years to come.
Also, the team sports thing, I think, is huge. I mean, with camps and events that we've been a part of, that's insane. I actually didn't realize how deep we are with that. So that's a deep in and of itself to produce just an absolute army of people supporting the brand. But this was the advantage of buying BioSteel, having something with already so much awareness and such a cool brand in the market that people want to be a part of it. This isn't you don't have to sell them on being a part of it. They're coming to you, and that is something that money cannot buy. Well, maybe 450 million can, but the very interesting research and study done by Harvard Business Review.